The Blind Tony Story, Book 8, Chapter 4. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? People have been asking that question for a very long time now, and we still don't know the answer definitively. However, we do know that you don't get chickens without eggs, and you don't get eggs without chickens. I know that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And with his son Jesus, the master worker by his side, he spoke light into existence. He formed man from the dust, and all creatures, great and small, including the chickens, were created by his hands. And even though I don't know which came first, the chicken or the egg, I do know that once the dynamic was firmly set in place, then the capacity for both chickens and eggs were clearly there. In fact, any time that the supernatural interacts with the natural or the spiritual interacts with the fleshly, then the dynamic is set in place for the unusual, the spectacular, the remarkable, the strange, the extraordinary, life-changing events occur. Lame have been known to walk. The blind have been known to see. The sick have been healed. The seas have been parted. And even those who have been dead have been known to live again. But on the other hand, entire kingdoms have been destroyed. Empires and cultures and civilizations have been conquered. And the wicked have often risen to power and prospered. Men themselves have often been possessed and inhabited by demons also, sometimes seemingly for the better, like that girl in the Bible who could tell the future and made a lot of money for her masters, or Balaam, or like that wicked demon possessed man that David complained about that say always seemed to prosper. But more often than not, whenever demons control and possess men, there's nothing but suffering and a lot of pain. Like that demoniac, Gergesenes or Gadarenes, the outer region that couldn't be restrained and lived among the dead, couldn't be changed, constantly tried to harm itself. And even when those demonic spirits were allowed to enter the herd of swine, they caused the whole herd of swine to self-destruct by running down the hill and throwing themselves into the water, drowning themselves. That's what demons do. They rob, kill, and destroy. And they can't help themselves. That's their nature. That's what they do. So what's the difference in spiritual interventions? Some spiritual interventions are from God. Those are good. And they usually are designed to make things better, like healings. As long as you're on the right side, his side, the side of light. Every good and perfect gift does come from God. All those other spiritual interventions come from Satan, the devil, the father of the lie, the original serpent, the great deceiver, the ruler of darkness, and the God of this system of things. I call him the God of this system of things because that's what the Bible refers to him as, the God of this system of things, with a little g on the word God. All this, the earth, was all given to him by default in the Garden of Eden. He also has the power to transform himself into an angel of light, and his servants can also appear as powerful ministers of truth and fire. They also know the scriptures very well, and Satan himself quoted it to Jesus. So how can you tell who's who in the spiritual world? Jesus said, try the spirits, test the spirits, and God's spirit will bear witness with your spirit, and you would know deep within which is from God. But it's still touch and go, because scripture also says that Satan will fool even the elect if it was possible. So the best test is the one that Jesus talked about, that you'll know the tree by the fruit it bears. So which came first, the chicken or the egg? It really didn't matter once the dynamic was firmly set in place. Once cocaine was mysteriously, unexpectedly, and miraculously and supernaturally reintroduced back into my life once again by the sudden appearance of a crack pipe in the snow, seemingly manifesting itself out of nowhere with no apparent human help at all. And that's an interesting metaphor. Dark evil set against a snow white backdrop. And me not only weak enough to heed its call, but foolish enough to taste and ingest its poison. I gave the demons a foothold into my life once again, and into my family's life once again. And we were all doomed from that point on. The more I used cocaine, the more Delisha drifted away. And the more Delisha drifted away, the more cocaine I used. It was a perfect formula for disaster, an inversely proportional downward spiral spinning towards destruction. And we were so caught up in our own individual realities that we couldn't even see it coming. Anyway, at first life was good. I was with Now every day, all day, every work day of the week. We took all our meals together. I taught him to walk, to talk, and pretty much how to develop his own personality. Every day was like a great new adventure. We would go for long walks to the museums, the parks, to the zoos, the tennis courts, and just the streets in general. We watched PBS every morning, the Reading Rainbow, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Sesame Street, and we talked a lot. I talked to him continuously about everything, and he asked a lot of questions. Some of them really blew my mind. Like like the morning he asked me while we were eating breakfast. He was only 3 years old. Daddy, what does homogenized mean? I was shocked. I used to read him the labels on everything. But as I said before, kids have this uncanny ability beyond our capacity to understand. I went to social services and applied for welfare. Even though I was legally married to Delicia, they still refused to recognize her because she was not officially yet a U.S. citizen. She was still considered an alien, but a legal alien. So I was given complete custody of Fori. And as his legal guardian, social services approved of my case. We were given rent money and a utility stipend, which covered most of our bills. I was also given food stamps. Delisha also was still receiving WIC. On top of everything else, Delisha was still working every day. And she was making good money, even though I never really knew what she made. Even today, I can't tell you what she made. Certain areas of her life, she just liked to keep secret. But you know what? She never refused to give whatever was needed to the maintenance of the house. Anything that was for the good of our home, she provided freely. She was a good mother and she was a great wife. I was the weak link. Besides me doing taxes on this, I was doing taxes for people on the side to augment our income. And I also started teaching tennis for $20 an hour. And I had several students every week. I also started playing the pipe organ for Tremont Baptist Church, and they paid me $150 every Sunday for 3 hours of service. I also started teaching private music lessons for another $20 an hour, several students every week. So even though I had quit my job, we were still quite solvent. But as I said before, all of that was doomed to change due to my addiction. Delisha would normally get off work between 5 and 6 o'clock and then meet me and Fori at the tennis courts. After dinner, which I usually tried to have ready for her, I would go down the block and pursue my drug activities. I started hustling for a local Dominican dealer, and for every 20 $5 bottles of crack I would sell for him, I would be given 5 bottles to keep for myself. which was usually enough to hold me for the night. And it usually only took about an hour of time for me to accomplish this. The dealer lived in a building around the corner from where we lived, and I would hustle from out of his hallway. One night, I was approached by four men wearing ski masks. They walked up on me and demanded that I take them to the boss's apartment and get him to open the door. Wow. They stuck a gun in my face, and I knew right then and there that I was going to die. I also realized that taking him to the boss's apartment was not going to save me. I was all in. I was going to die that night, and that's all there was to it. So I looked at one with the gun in his eye, and I grabbed my genitals and told him to suck it. Not not those exact words, but I'm trying to keep this book PG, or at least PG-13. I'm trying hard to speak in ways that in no way will bring reproach upon our Father's name as I relate some of these negative incidents. Anyway, the man with the gun pulled up his ski mask and smiled, and it was the boss's brother. He said, "Bueno, está bien, you passed the test." Man, if I had taken him to the boss's apartment, then I would have got shot. God is good, even when we're not. Everybody was happy. Everybody was happy, at least except me. I do not appreciate being scared like that. So in retaliation, I took all their dope and smoked it up. They didn't see me for a few days. And when they did, I had all the money. I had taken Delicia's cash card out of her wallet without her knowing it. And I went to the cash machine, took the money out, paid the dealers off, and then put the card back in her wallet. Everything went smooth. But like I said earlier in the story, when a dope fiend gets away with something once, he's going to definitely try it again. Now, the next time I took her cash card and went to the cash machine, she found out, got pissed off, and called the cops. And the cops came to our house, and she told them that I had taken money out of the bank and smoked crack with it. She also showed them where I kept my crack pipes. I told them that yes, it was true, and I had a right to do whatever I wanted to do in the comfort of my own home. They told me I was sick and needed help. I told them that they didn't know me well enough to make a judgment of that nature. They couldn't tell me what I needed, and that statistics show that most policemen have drinking problems, and just maybe they're the ones who actually need help. Oh man, they looked like they wanted to kill me. But instead, they broke my crack pipes, and then they asked Delicia about the money, and she told them that the money actually belonged to me, but it had been earmarked for our bills, and I had withdrawn it without her knowledge or consent. They also wanted me to leave the apartment, but I told them that I had been living in that apartment long before I even met Delicia or married her. And the lease was in my name, and I'm the one who pays the rent here. They asked Alicia if that was true, and she said yes. And then they asked her if she had somewhere she could go. And again, she said yes, to a motel. So they escorted her and Forey supposedly to a motel. And I spent the night alone. It was the beginning of the end. Still, life was good.